send your spirit and fall afresh on us. Fill us with your power, Lord, and fill us with your love, Lord.
The context of it, and we had the readings a couple of weeks ago, is the feeding of the 5,000. And I saw, isn't it amazing how you can read something for years and then all of a sudden you get a bit of a light bulb moment? And I saw something I hadn't seen before. And I think it's to do with this awakening to what we already have. So the context of it is that Jesus had been teaching and healing people, and it says here to start, it says, sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the miraculous signs that he had been doing. And we'll come down, and the Jewish Passover feast was near, and Jesus looked up and he saw all the people, and he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" And Philip answered him, he said, "Lord, eight months' wages would not buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Now, the text says that there was 5,000 men, not counting the women and children. So that's a potential 20,000 people. And Jesus is saying, where will we buy something to eat for them? And Philip just, immediately looked at the problem. And he said, well, that would take 8 months' wages. How could we possibly do that? So another of the disciples spoke up, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, and this is where the text comes here, said, "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?" So Andrew also said, well, all we've got's 2 fish. A little boy's lunch, in fact. That's all we've got. And he said, how far will that go? So 2 disciples looking at the problem. But look what Jesus did. Verse 10, Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." And there was plenty of grass in that place, and the men sat down, about 5,000 of them. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. And he did the same with the fish. So Jesus had quite a different attitude to Andrew and Philip, who both looked at the problem. Not one time did you notice that Jesus complained about the lack. He never focused on the problem. And immediately he started to thank God for the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. Immediately he started to thank God for what he did have. And then the multiplication happened. It took his thanks. He immediately went to the Father. He didn't say it all. He didn't focus on the problem. He focused on what was in his hand. This little boy had given his lunch. And he begins to thank the Father. He's grateful for what the Father's put in his hand. So what can we learn from this? Don't give our attention, like those disciples, to what we don't have, but give our attention to what we do have. Start thanking God for what we do have. Don't spend time worrying about what we don't have. And that's the key to the multiplication happening. And sometimes we are stuck and we don't feel we're going forward with God because we're focusing on our problems all the time and not the promises of God. Don't focus on the problem, but focus on the promises, what God has said. We're focusing more on what we can see around us, more of what's going on in our lives, rather than focusing on God's word, which tells a very different story. The apostles saw what they didn't have. Be grateful for what we have got, and that opens the way to the next level. You know, it's the little foxes that destroy the vine. You know that in the scriptures it says it's the small foxes and the little things. And this might seem like a little thing about my teaching about being grateful for what we do have. But it can actually stop you progressing, because you know, God said, be faithful in the small things and then I can entrust you with greater. So the being grateful for what we have. And imagine Jesus looking out at 20,000 people, you know, and I think we would probably be like the disciples and be looking at the problem. But he never once looked at the lack in his life, in the situation. Never once looked at lack. He looked at being grateful for what was there.
Lord, send your spirit and fall afresh on us. Fill us with your power, Lord, and fill us with your love. Lord, send your spirit and fall afresh on us.